So, Sunny Salina, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It means really, really much. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. It is a Friday, so I'm ready for the weekend.
Do you have any special plans?
It's a long weekend here down in Melbourne, so I just plan on doing nothing, and then I'll be shooting a cosplay on Monday on the public holiday.
In Sweden now, it's March. The snow is... We haven't had snow for a couple of days, knocking on wood, so we're really happy. How is the weather in Australia?
Melbourne itself has a completely different weather system to the rest of Australia. I don't know what it is, but it is literally called the three seasons in one day. The day will start off at 40 degrees, and then it will thunderstorm, and then the sun will be out. So you just never know. So right now it is night, but the sky is clear. So we'll see how long it lasts.
Awesome, awesome. And you are sitting here in a cosplay, and that's what we're going to talk about today, or tonight, or this. For me, it's this morning, and for you, it's this night.
Yes.
So I would just like to start by asking, how did you get into cosplay?
Yeah, so I was a big Buffy the Vampire fan. So I started watching it when I was, I believe, 7 to probably 10 years old. And one of the actors, Spike, James Masters, was announced as a guest at our Supernova. So my dad took me when, I believe it was 2011. So I would have been 10. And yeah, no, that was the first time I had ever seen that type of thing before, and I've been every single year since 2011. I was 10 years old at the time, and now I'm 24, and I haven't missed a year yet, apart from COVID. So,
But was that when you started with this, with the cosplay?
yeah, no, that was when I started. I come from a family of artists, so there's a lot of sewing, music, painting. It was always very craft based, and my mum even has photos of me making clothes when I was 7, 8 years old, so even before then. So that was the first time that I was like, I just want to dress up. And yeah, I started making my own costumes about the year after. So I started making costumes when I was about 13.
Do you remember which was your first costume?
Yeah, it was. It was from an anime. It was from an anime called Black Butler. Funny enough, I was a big, big anime fan. Right after I went to my first Supernova, I started watching a lot of animes, and it was from Black Butler. It was Grell. So long red wig. Yeah, there was a lot going on, but that was my first one.
How would you say, when you started doing this, creating your own costumes and going to cons and other conventions, would you say that it's the craft that intrigued you to keep going, or was it just like being around? Because the thing that I love is to be around people that loves culture, that loves movies, that loves TV shows, that loves video games. That's really what I love. What was it that drew you to continue doing cosplay up till this point, actually?
It was everyone that I just kept meeting at conventions. Every convention I would come back with a new friend and someone that I'd never met before, and I would just keep making friends at every convention that I would go to. And the power of making a costume really got you through the rest of the month. And in Australia, our con season is usually from April to October. So from November to March, it would be you'd make an elaborate costume and then you would show it off throughout the year, or you would make multiple as it goes. But it really was a mixture of the craftsmanship aspect and just seeing everyone that I only see maybe twice a year.
So a costume takes from November until February, is that right?
Yeah, it depends what the costume is. I've put costumes out within 2 weeks, and I've taken my sweet time and done costumes that are 6 months. So I think my longest costume was about 8 months. But yeah, no, I've put out some costumes and really crunched pretty hard. So
that's awesome. But do you look away? I mean, because does this give you a different perspective to movies or TV shows? I mean, first of all, I just have to. Do you do this for a living professionally right now?
no, I don't. It is complete a side hustle. I've confidently can say that I've never made any money off cosplay. ever, apart from selling prints at a convention one time. So it is completely a side gig. I work in the wig industry in Australian, like film and television and things like that. So we basically wholesale to Lord of the Rings, for example, was a big one that we did, and we did The Matrix was another big one. So I'm in the behind the scenes aspect of most of it now.
Cool. I mean, did you do this is a, now I'm getting completely sidetracked, but is it the wigs from Matrix Reloaded, perhaps, when the two ghosts?
Was a lot of the time it's wholesale. So a lot of the times, makeup artists and hairstylists will put out an email and basically say, I need 6 wigs, full lace, platinum, completely hand tied, mono cap, all that fancy language, and they'll be like, I need it now. And then they'll come in and pick which ones they want, and then they'll usually take them. But yeah, it's a Melbourne-based company, but we get a lot of attraction from the Gold Coast because that's where Warner Brothers is, and that's where they do a lot of filming up in Australia. So we do so many movies. We just did the Mad Max film Furiosa. We're doing one right now, which I can't talk about, but it is very cool. But there's definitely a few coming in there. So it's very interesting. It's every day is different with that type of thing. So you just never know what's going to happen.
So you're working with creative things, but not cosplay during the daytime as well. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It's cosplay. We sell cosplay wigs, and I use a lot of those wigs for cosplays. But yeah, it's just everybody. So you'd be surprised how many people walk around wearing wigs, and you'll just never know. So
cool. I mean, this could be a separate episode by itself, but I'll just continue on because otherwise I'll run down the rabbit hole of this because I find it so intriguing and I love this. So I'll just move on and then we can come back to this if we have the time. But the thing that I was going to try to reach was that when you found your passion for cosplay. And you've been doing it because you love the craft. Do you watch TV shows or movies differently because it's quote unquote the job? I mean, now I want to watch this because I want to find the ultimate costume to make, or I mean,
exactly, yeah.
So you changed your way.
Sometimes you just see a cosplay and you think, I want to cosplay that, but I have no idea. I've never played the game. I've never watched the TV show. Just completely different. And that was me with God of War, because I'm building Freya at the moment. And I had only seen video clips of Freya online, and I was like, wow, that is a woman. I need that so bad. And then I played Ragnarok, and I was like, yeah, that's mine. So yeah, it opens a lot of doors in pop culture just in general as well.
Do you think that the general idea of pop culture, I mean, I can imagine I'm a bit older. I'm in my 40s, in the middle of my 40s, and when I was a kid, the conventions were not as popular as they were now, and they were not as they didn't spend that much money at the conventions as they do now. How do you feel that the Comic Cons or conventions have changed during your time of doing this?
Yeah, no, it's had a bit of a corporate jump, is what we call it. So it kind of feels, a lot of cons nowadays will feel very corporate. So like the big ones like San Diego Comic-Con, they'll feel a bit more, brand, sponsor brand, that kind of thing. But you still get some of the smaller ones. In Australia, like a big one is Smash. It's an anime con. It's like the biggest anime con in Australia. That doesn't feel very corporate. That feels very community based, and it's built on the cosplay aspect specifically as well, which is really nice. But there's definitely been a massive jump, and I don't want to blame COVID, but you can really tell when the jump happened, and I would say it was probably maybe about six years ago, I would say. But it's been like that for a while. I think that was just the biggest pivot.
Cool. I mean, when you create your costumes or your cosplay costumes, is it the most visual things that are the most difficult, or is it, secrets to it that, for me as an outsider, you might say that, you can't imagine, but this thing that nobody hardly sees is the most difficult thing to make?
Yeah, It's like that with a lot of them.
It is.
It's the smallest details, and sometimes it just depends on what you're making the costume for. If it's for a competition, if it's just for, you know, just for going out and about. But I would say that the 5 foot rule comes into place a lot, where it's if you can't see it from 5 feet away, just leave it. Just it's fine. No one's gonna come up to you and tell you.
Yeah, but what was? Do you have any specific thing? I mean, like that when you started making it, you said to yourself, "This can't be that hard." And then when you started, you went, "Oh, this was a surprise. I can't imagine this being this difficult as it was."
Yeah, yeah, it comes into a lot of aspects, and cosplay isn't just one hobby. It's you know, you become a 3D modeler, you become a seamstress, you become a hairstylist, you become a makeup artist. It's so much harder than people think, than ordering cosplay compared to pulling one out of like materials, basically. I would definitely agree, though, that it's pretty hard to start when you've got so many like different categories of things that you can do. But yeah, you know, I would definitely say that that was a massive thing for me, especially within the first 5 years. It was definitely something that happened a lot.
Wait, do you have a costume that is closer to your heart than others? Or a character that is closer to your heart than others? Or do you leave the project when you have done a costume, you go, okay, now that's done. That's out the door, so to say.
Yeah, I do. I think my big one is it's a bit of a tie. I started with Harley Quinn back in 2014, and that was at the peak of the new DC New 52 run, and it was very hype. And I still have that first comic book that I bought on the first day it came out, and I had it signed by Alex Sinclair and everything. And Harley's very, very near and dear to my heart. Before any live adaptations were done, she was definitely a big part. And then I picked up Catwoman along the way, which when I discovered Catwoman a bit later on, I felt like I related so much more on an emotional and a deeper level than Harley. So I would say the DC knows what they're doing with their writing. So
I haven't read that much comic books, but I love the movies and I love everything about the movies. Would you say, because I'm not known, but I used to say that I think that some actors and actresses are in symbiosis with the characters they're playing. And for me, one example is Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man, for example, but another one is Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I think from me looking from the outside in and not having read the comics, I think that she is brilliant in that role. Then when it comes to the movies, I mean, there are things to discuss about those, but as a character and as a interpretation of the character, I think they are absolutely brilliant. What do you think about that?
yeah, no, I get that. There is gonna be some comic book characters that you'll never see them as anything else, and you'll see them as that character. Like personally, Scarlett Johansson will never not be Black Widow. She'll never ever not be Black Widow. She could come back and play Sue Storm, and I'll say, no, that is Natasha Romanoff. So
What?
she's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Chris Evans, honestly, I think he plays them both well. I think he's a bit of a switch, so that's good as well. But I definitely see that with a lot of specific Marvel and DC characters in general. There's a handful of them that you just can't see them as anything else. And I think Henry Cavill is a big testament to that. So
Awesome. I completely agree. And would you say that you I mean, what do you prefer the most? I mean, if you look at it like, okay, now I'm doing these cosplays, these costumes. Now, when I started because I loved Buffy the Vampire, but now I'm more into TV shows, video games, or movies. What would you say
yeah,
what do you like the most?
I'd say my big one is between TV shows and movies. I still do a bit of dabbling in cosplaying from certain comic runs and things like that, but I would say TV shows and movies are probably the biggest one now. Then again, I can't talk. I just did a whole bunch of video game cosplays in the last three years. So, but I would say I'm leaning more back towards the TV series now.
Cool. I have this quick, not rapid fire. I mean, if it comes, if a discussion comes up, I'm happy to have it. But I have these, quick questions regarding favorite movies and stuff. Do you mind if we do them now?
Yeah,
Is
sure.
it okay? Cool. So, what's your favorite movie?
Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, and it was starring Jim Carrey. So that's my favorite of all time.
Awesome. And what's your guilty pleasure movie?
Ooh, that's a good one. Civil War. Civil War. I can go back and I can watch Civil War, even though I know so many people that aren't the biggest fan of Avengers Civil War, but that's my guilty pleasure.
But okay, I think that's genuinely good movie. That's one of the best.
Maybe in the public eye, yeah.
No?
I think I hear a lot of people, I guess, nitpick it from my perspective. But I'd say it's one that I would say it's one. I don't know, to be honest. There's not too many really bad ones. Okay, hang on. Morbius. All right, I'll admit. I didn't watch Morbius for the first 2 years when it came out because I was like, this is dog poo. This is not going to be good. And then I watched it about a year ago, or about 6 months ago now. I was like, that actually wasn't that bad. That was actually Matt Smith's actually really good in it. Jared Leto did the part really well. I'm like, I actually don't see why there's so much hate for it. I could go back and I could rewatch Morbius a few more times. So maybe that's secretly a real guilty pleasure.
Cool. Did you see Kraven the Hunter?
I did, unfortunately.
Okay, great. We'll just skip that. And then this is one of the interesting ones right now. Marvel or DC?
DC.
Cool. Now we're talking the movies, right? Yeah, the movie.
As of today, DC.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any expectations for the new Superman? What do you think about that?
I do. I'm very open and I'm very willing to give James Gunn's a chance. And after I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and a few other films that he's directed, I was like, you know what? Like, he's very talented and he's a bit of a goofy guy, but I think he can be serious when he wants to be. And Guardians of the Galaxy 3 changed my perspective on that as well. But I'm very willing to give the Superman movie a chance. I think they did a really good job casting, especially Lois Lane and Nicholas Hoult. I love that casting so much, and I can't wait to see him in it. But I do have high expectations of it, but I do generally believe that he can meet those expectations as well. And I know it's going to be a massive box office hit regardless, just because everyone's going to want to see it. So either way, I think he'll be good in Warner Brothers books.
So do I. And I think he proved it by doing Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, 3, which proves that he can hold brilliantly, I would say, a longer narrative. Not just exactly. Make a standalone movie, but he can keep... because the story ties up so neatly in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 when it comes to completing the characters and all that. So I completely agree. Awesome. I see you have your wall behind you with a lot of things, but I don't see anything Star Wars. So I think that this will be more interesting than it used to. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars. There's actually a hot toy Baby Yoda right there, which I don't think anyone can see because he's up here. But yes, no, definitely Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Are you one of those people that haven't seen Star Trek at all, or are you familiar with because they have a lot of cool characters that you can make cosplay of? Yeah,
no, I haven't watched like Star Trek like front to back or anything like that. I've seen snippets here and there, obviously like Leonard Nimoy's highlights and things like that. But I haven't sat down and like watched just a full episode of it. But I do admit the uniforms are brilliant. Like. It's the basic stuff that ends up being the best, and you don't have to overcomplicate that type of thing. So I do have very high respect, though, for their prosthetics team and obviously their costume designers.
Cool. And which is the most famous movie from any time period? Anyway, any time period actually. The most famous movie that you haven't seen.
That's a really good one. Wolf of Wall Street. I haven't seen Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah,
That's
I've
cool.
seen a few clips of Margot Robbie here and there, and she's amazing. I just haven't watched it. I just don't know. I just haven't sat down and watched it. There's been a few big ones that I've never seen, like The Godfather. I haven't seen a few of them, but yeah, no, that's probably a really big one, I would say. So
Cool, cool. And lastly, I just have to ask you. I mean, you have your cosplay on now as Selina Kyle, Catwoman. Who is your favorite iteration of that character? Selina Kyle separately and Catwoman separately.
Zoe Kravitz as both. I
Wow.
think Zoe Kravitz did something absolutely incredible that I had never seen before, and I think it's just because even though we've had so many live action of, different characters, and I know a lot of people ride or die Michelle Pfeiffer, which I totally respect. I love her to bits, but Zoe just grounded the character so much and brought her back to her roots and how she is in the comics, and her acting is insane. She fits everything about the Catwoman side and the Selena Kyle side, in my opinion.
Cool, cool. And lastly, I mean, if all three people that look at this would like to find out more about you, where can they find you? What are your social media handles? Handles, is that the word? Yeah.
I'd say my most used platform is Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty much on Instagram every day. So it's just Sunny Salina, Salina, instead of the regular Selena spelling. And yeah, I would say Instagram is the biggest. Otherwise, it will be probably TikTok, where it's Sunny Salina and then the number 2.
Great. Sunny Salina, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.